Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. Today, we're going to talk about our shared Roman Empire, the education of history. I'm Gülce.
I'm Berra.
I'm Melike.
I'm Azra.
And I'm Ray.
We're here in Istanbul, Turkey, and we're actually in our social sciences high school's recording room, sitting on the floor in a really cozy environment and making this podcast. We're all studying in the IB diploma program, and until this year, we've taken history from the national curriculum. And this year, right now, half of us are taking global politics and half of us are taking Turkey in the 20th century. So we've experienced the history lessons in different perspectives so far.
And we realized many differences in between all of those curriculums, all of those lessons, and all of those textbooks. Every single time when we were talking about the exact same things, we were looking at it from a different perspective. We were learning it differently. We were seeing many details, and most of them were focused on a different thing, and the others were focused on a whole different matter, and then they were just all mixed up in our brains.
And we have seen that national curriculum is solely based on dates and the winner and the loser of the war. They only care the war itself. But in IB program, we have seen that it cares the reasons that paved the way to that war and the consequences of that war, of the event, not only wars. And as in national, we have seen the events from only one perspective, but IB provides us more than one perspective, and we can see and observe the events from many other sources.
Yeah, so we have learned that history is multidimensional. So there isn't only wars, there are other things, and there are consequences of wars, there are reasons of wars, and these things affect the society and what's going on in the society, in people's houses, what's going on in different communities, different minorities.
Yeah, and since we started the IB diploma program, you know the kind of teachers that will say when, like, in the first lesson, they would say, forget everything you learned till now. And in IB program, this happened to us. Like, we had to forget everything we learned till now because we will be looking at the same historical events at a completely different perspective, and we will be examining these events at a completely different view. So in this comparison, we see that even though we're looking at these things from a different view, we always examine the same thing, and it's always about wars and stuff. But we think that a part of the importance of history is that how people lived and how the society was like back then.
And that forgetting part is kind of struggling for us as we are in the first year of our IB program. And we are shocked that we are getting the depth of the events instead of sidelining the social studies as we did in national curriculum, because our curriculum only cared for the science studies.
For example, IBDP's TITC lesson, Turkey in the 20th century, someone take that and we saw that it's a triple-sided lesson. Even though it's based on history, it has both history, sociology, and economy. By this way, you see what events lead to another social effect or another economic effect. And till now, we just didn't think that would happen because of how national curriculum was teaching us. So we found out that it's actually a double-dimensioned field, and we are just
learning a very little part of that. Yeah. And it's not enough while you're analyzing the shape of the society. It's not enough for analyzing the new events, and only with memorizing what wars happened, only memorizing the strong people, it's not enough to know what future is going to bring us.
Yes, exactly. Actually, if we had learned about past political events, if we had analyzed them, if we had looked through the consequences and the conclusions of them all, and if we had a wider knowledge on the societal effects and the societal conclusions of them, maybe we could be better at analyzing today's events, and maybe we could have the ability to predict the future. You know, in today's world, it is extremely important to be well aware of your surroundings and of your political state, because now the world basically evolves faster.
We're all living in Istanbul, and we have been living here for like the whole of our life. And like there's a lot of people from a lot of ethnicities are around us, and we know that when we look at them, we just doesn't know anything about them. And it's actually sad, because if history lessons teach us a lot of things, a lot like what this war caused to other societies and stuff like that, we would know about like the ethnicities, and we would know about the cultures of these people. Okay, we reach that understanding point while we're growing up. But if it was given us to in history lessons, we would be more rational while growing up about the other cultures, and we would be more understanding.
Yeah, of these people. So we didn't learn to look from other people's perspectives. We only learned that we fought a battle, we won the battle or we lost the battle. But we didn't look from the perspective of the other side, the other party that we were fighting. Even if it wasn't fighting, when there were just political engagements and issues, whatever we learned, we only saw one side of it. So we didn't learn to look from other perspectives. And we want to do this.
But in time, as we grew up, as we had new interactions with different people from different backgrounds, as we entered social media, started using social media actively, as we started the IBDP program, and many other different effects on our lives had led us to actually face the differences in between cultures. And we had lived in a multicultural city for so long, and I feel like we had just lost a huge chance to just open doors to a new world. We just didn't have the chance because of the environment that we grew up in, because most of us grew up in more unaware houses. In my house, my grandma would always talk about other people from other ethnicities badly. She would always talk about how our ethnicity has been the best for years and years, and how we are always so tidy and neat, always. She would always talk about that. And when she was talking about people from other ethnicities, she would say that they were always dirty, they looked dirty, they wore ugly clothing and stuff. And I grew up in such a household, which led me to have, in my brain, I had stereotypes. I had stereotypes about other ethnicities, and I feel like there's just a huge lost chance.
And because we live in Istanbul, and now we're sitting on the floor, we all are from different ethnicities, we all share a different culture, but Istanbul has the opportunity to bring them all together because of the history of it, actually, Ottoman Empire, before Ottoman Empire, or this place used to be a Constantinople to most of the people, and this place have seen more religions, more races, more community buildings, so this place has the capacity of make you embrace the culture and share the culture with you. And now, because I am standing with other people who are from different ethnicities, and I am aware that this is a new thing for me, because I grew up in a very conservative household where we didn't talk about any races or any other ideologies and opinions. And because I'm here talking with you guys, I am capable of understanding better.
Yeah, and also I think that living in such a beautiful city, and we had a lot of opportunity to know these races and know the other cultures, but sometimes because of we don't get this in a rational place like school, or there's no one who can teach us the actual things what happened to these people, or actual things about these ethnicities rather than these stereotypes, it can lead to racism at some point, like they said, because we don't know them actually. We're living with them, but we have no idea about them. And since human brain is scared of what they don't know, people would gain some racist ideas about the other people who they don't know the ethnicities. What?
Prejudgments.
Yeah, prejudgments about other people's ethnicities. And I think at such place, if our history lessons included something not war, but also what happened to these people after war, because a lot of civilian people were there and they got affected for it. Because most of the times in these wars, also the civilians get affected by it, and these people didn't do anything wrong, and we can just judge people by the wars and stuff, and these kind of judgments leads to racism at most points, and because of this, we can't enjoy our city and our diversity.
Speaking of ethnicities, this topic directly leads us to underrepresented and marginalized groups and communities, because while these events happening in the world, because they're minorities, there's very little sources of them existing or protecting their culture. So while they record these things, most of the time they are underrepresented, so the government that is responsible for them most of the time forgets or leads more place to the own ethnicity that they have. So most of the time these minorities have no voice in archives, or they got lost in the archives. So most of the time you maybe could not know your ethnicity because you were a minority back then, and the archives just didn't talk about you. So you have very limited source of what you had before. By history teaching, we can turn this limited occasion to a opportunity to give children more educated and qualified education on more underrepresented and marginalized groups.
Yeah, because the society, and most of the time these people, because of these people doesn't know where they come from, like their backgrounds, they feel outcasted, and because they have no voice, they have no place for them. But if they did, I think it would be also better for us to also accept them. And they also have a big place in the history. Like, think about what happened to Ottoman Empire, like, and the minorities there. They also have a big place in our background and history.
And it's really important that we learn to see from these people's perspectives, because we grow up in these places where we can't really have this opportunity. So as they grow up and we grow up, we need to know how to empathize with each other.
All of these factors and conflicts actually lead to so many arguments among, we live in the digital age, so social media is a big impact on our lives, and we spend most of our time on social media, that we have to admit it. I personally call myself an social media addict because I'm on my phone too much, maybe. But this led...
I think all of us are social media addicts. Like, this generation is a social media addict, and it affects us so much.
And when you use social media this much, when you face so many different opinions on the internet, when you see lots of fights, always there's an controversial topic, and then on the comments, two people were fighting for 1,000 comments. It was a whole argument for a whole book-long argument. And then looking at all of those arguments with different point of views, different aspects, different knowledges, you see that there's a whole pool of misinformation.
Yeah, and in comments, people from two different ethnicities would argue about things that they're in a war, and they're trying to develop their country in the Instagram comments and stuff.
Even today, Turkish people are always fighting with Greek people on the internet about the war that happened 100 years ago. And we never can make peace with this. And even though right now we're laughing at these, we know that deep inside, all of those people were just so filled with misinformation, and then their opinions are so biased. They don't really know, Turkish people don't know what Greek people went through, or just they don't know what we went through, or none of us actually try to understand or try to learn the actual informations. We don't try to reach that. We just stick with what we had learned via social media or by the biased and one-sided history lessons that we took in middle school.
And this is actually the consequence of having less and less people who has media literacy, because media literacy is a very important topic that we have to develop. And this new age of social media leads us to believe whatever we seen on the internet, and we cannot stop ourselves from believing, because deep down we as humans tend to believe what we see on the internet, what we want to believe, we believe it. But if we could have increased the rates of media literacy, it would have helped the community memory.
Yeah, definitely. And today in digital age, in the social media age, everyone has a right, everyone has a chance to comment on anything, basically. In any post you see on social media, you were able to comment on it, you were able to share it, you were able to share your own opinions, own beliefs, and it is actually your choice to choose your tone. You can express your opinions and beliefs in kindness, and you can do it with aggression too. You can just go onto the internet, do hate comments on everything, see a cute girl and say, "You look so ugly," or as another example, Turkish people might go onto the internet and see a Greek person, and then he may just bring up the war between Greece and Turkey, and then just it is a whole another conversation and another just argument, again 1,000 comment long.
And it has no point as well. What I believe is the education system can be deeply manipulative, that it can lead people to still talk about these things that happened years ago, centuries ago, and they would I think the education system works like this. It tends to bring up the past, which is cool, by the way, but in a aggression-based and violated way. Just because we talk about all wars and who killed who, this automatically leads us to being more aggressive towards other people, because you basically teach children that, oh yeah, this man from this country killed your father, and this is why you should hate them.
And I think that we should give children age-specific education, because if we give a 7-year-old about all the bad sides of a war, they would affect badly, and it would create...
They don't understand that.
but it would affect their future. It would affect their deep thoughts.
Yeah,
And
traumatizing.
yeah, they don't understand like the what is war and stuff. So you're just filling them with aggression.
Yes, and it would fill them with anger and hate towards other nations, and it would cause racism.
Yeah, and because like they don't have like they don't know how to act rational. They don't know what is what. So it just
So they act like how their parents and teachers act, and it is a racist way.
yeah. And I think in this point international mindedness is very important for like families to be, teachers to be, because we have to be understanding towards cultures. We have to be we have to know at this point, because we're always in interaction with them. We're always in the media, we're always seeing these people. And like in Istanbul, when you go to Istiklal, everybody is from a different place, and you can just look up them with hate, and you can just start arguing with them with the like smallest thing happens.
And this is exactly points where we can solve these problems, because history has the power to actually lead the children. So by teaching children the good sides and the revolutions, maybe by teaching the children revolutions that happened in history that affected society in
Also
a good
by
way.
spreading international mindedness among students.
Yeah. It directly gives us the solution to racism and sexism and other topics like that.
International mindedness is important because it requires for you to have like a generic and more objective perspective. It is understanding of different cultures and different beliefs. It is respecting different beliefs and cultures, and it just opens you a new world of just information, knowledge, and kindness.
Yeah, and it's also not only respecting, but actually having knowledge about what these people were going through, or like what these people were believing, and like their cultures and stuff. You have information about that when you become like an international minded person, and it is very important actually, because at some point we want to talk, we want to state our opinions, but we don't know anything. And like in current conflicts, in current situations like wars and stuff happening between countries, so to analyze these things in a like an accurate way, we should be international minded people. Because it says actually like our opinion and like our wrong racist ideas are actually harming people in some place in the earth.
In order to advance not only international mindedness but also global mindedness, people should give up from exaggerated nationalism.
And our aim here is to find a solution to all of these problems. We want there to be international-minded, global-minded, and open-minded new generations. We want to raise such generations. And if there could be a website, a platform, where all of these events during all the world's history, not only one side, and from all perspectives, if there were different types of media in this website that provided information, and if this part of media, if this platform could be used as a material in lessons by teachers, then we could actually raise an aware generation that didn't have such problems as we do right now.
As it known, each student is unique. Each kid is unique. So they also have unique ways to learn things. And it would have good if there were resources for those kids to learn. As it is known for a fact that this generation has short attention, it would have been good if there were animated videos for those kids, which helped them to focus and concentrate on and motivate them.
And it is also important that students are now able to find like sources, like sources are accessible, because a lot of people doesn't want to get out of their comfort zone and they don't want to like research and stuff. But when we're making website that is accessible and like it's easy to find different sources from different
accurate sources, by the way,
yeah,
like no
accurate
misinformation
sources.
Because when you go on the internet, when you type on your YouTube search bar World War One, you're going to see thousands of videos with thousands of different perspectives. And what we aim with this project is actually to, reduce the misinformation that we're providing to the users and focus on more like the learners' profiles to contain videos and other contents like archives and different researches and lots of other contents, and trying to filter the information, the thousands of informations and videos and contents on the internet, and just try and use and link to the true ones. The videos and the researches we were based on actual material, actual fact.
And not just that, I think that materials that we use in history is not enough, because in schools we mostly use only lectures, and the lectures only consist of the essays that have been written by others. And with this project, with this website, we aim to give children the artworks, the theaters that represents and comments on the events that happened in the past. So both learner profiles that require a child to learn can be provided with this project.
And theaters would also help the kinesthetic learners who needs to act up to learn things. Because when they reenact those theaters, they would have role-played the so-called boring historical events, and they would have fun while doing it, and it would be more memorable for them.
And most of the children thinks that history lessons are boring.
And it's a whole norm.
Yeah, and I think by giving them like poems or songs from the past, it will connect them with their interests, so they can be more interested in this topic, because most of the people, at least not everyone, is interested in history, right? They have other fields to work on. So like if you're interested in music, maybe we can provide you with music that tells the story of the past or was made in that past dates.
So the main project is focusing on getting rid of the misinformation, getting rid of all the stereotypes and all the expectations that is our curriculum or any curriculum is actually expecting from us. Like if our curriculum is pushing us to fit into a certain learner's profile, then it's probably going to not work on every single child, because like we said, there are lots of other learners types, and we wouldn't want to lose students who actually could have been interested or successful in the history major.
Especially for multicultural kids. In history lessons, there's only historical events are mostly explained on one specific country and their angle and their perspectives, but these kids can't find any place for them to talk. These kids can't find anything about them in the lesson. So if we had more sources from other countries, these kids would find a piece of them in the lesson. They would be more into the history lesson, which is actually important, because also for multicultural kids, it's important for them to embrace their culture and know what they their background. So, and also, the school's job is to teach these kids their background. So with that kind of website, they will also be more interested in history lessons, and it will be better for a lot of them to learn about their culture and stuff.
And they would feel more included in the classroom too, because also they would also be more attentive, and they would have more tendency to join the classes, to share their own experiences with their city, to share what they know about their culture, their past, their history. I'm a Caucasian myself, and growing up, in none of the history classes, they talked about Caucasian people, my history. Even though we actually have been living in the same lands for probably hundreds of years, and we always interacted with other ethnicities, with Turkish people too, from Turkic people to Kurdish people, and my people in the past, and also me today, we have been interacting with all of those different ethnicities, people from different ethnic groups. And even though we live in such a multicultural country, in the history lessons we are never mentioned, and I could never actually learn about my ethnicity until after I grew up. I started searching for it on the internet. I started to look for it, and then I read about the Caucasian genocide. Is it called as Caucasian genocide?
I guess so.
Are we sure about that?
What is?
Caucasian genocide.
Yeah, we wish this was taught in the lessons.
But the Ottoman state enslaved Caucasian people.
About the enslaving of the Caucasian people, I started to look for these informations on the internet and on Wikipedia at first, and I was just filled with so many misinformation. There were a lot of people talking about my ethnicity, my background, and different perspectives, and lots of different ways. It was extremely confusing for me growing up because I never had to experience an actual history lesson where I was also included. I never saw the word Caucasian in any of our textbooks too.
And just like these multicultural individuals, the human rights, women's rights, the other things in society are also important. They're a really big part of history that are also related to these other events like wars. And for example, women's rights are never quite taught in lessons to girls, to little girls, how they have the rights that they have now.
When it's actually extremely important for little women to know their rights too. Little women.
Yes, it's really important. I mean, they should know what kind of rights women had in the past. They should know what kind of rights they have now, and they should know how they gained these rights.
Yes.
Also, when it comes to human rights, the enslavement of people, many people, and how indigenous people, black people, how they found their freedom, and what are they doing now? Because it's not really that far away from our time that these things are still happening, and they're very important, and they should be taught to people, to little people, for when they grow up, they know what to think of these things and how to treat people.
And they would also learn
themselves.
to respect these movements. They would also learn to respect feminism and respect LGBT movement.
Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I think it's also encouraging for a lot of kids because a lot of people feel insecure and outcasted in such places. But if they knew how much of a big achievement they reached in the past, they would be encouraged by that, and they wouldn't be that much insecure about that.
They would feel like a part of a community. And it is a great feeling to actually realize that there are a lot of people who feel like you, who act like you, who are just
like you. It is
Yes.
important.
And not even just indigenous people, because there could be a kid who is completely cis and white, and I mean, I'm sure that you've seen before, there's a lot of people on the media calling each other slurs without having any information or knowledge about it, having no background of what those words mean, or just the past. They have no idea what those people have been through, so they just use those words like nothing. They're just like any other word that you use in your daily life. But if they knew what happens to those people, if they knew what kind of troubles and struggles they've been through, maybe they wouldn't be using it, because there's a lot of, alongside with misinformation, people are just careless because they just don't know what happens before.
If they're educated with a more objective system, if they were thought about all of these social conflicts and we had or people had gone through from the past to today, they would be a lot more aware and a lot more sensitive about such sensitive topics.
Not only learning about our far past, but also we should learn about our near past as well. Because learning about our near past would aid to enlighten our future, and our project will help to avoid from future conflicts.
And also, to reach that, we will be having like a platform where you can compare different archives, different informations and documents to each other, and you can just, when information is excluded from one, it'll be included in another one. So those two documents from different regions will be helping each other to resolve conflicts and to actually gain more knowledge about the same topic from different documents, and because in those different documents different things will be documented.
Well, thank you very much for listening to us so far. We had a really enjoyable time discussing. We hope you enjoyed it too.
Bye-bye.
See you soon, hopefully.
Bye!
Bye!